Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, great. I like how they gave me these stools here as obstacles. I'll do my best. We might have an exciting morning. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation at the beginning here. Don't worry, no exercising. Emmett told me I couldn't wear my workout clothes, so you can stay seated. I just need a show of hands. How many of you exercise because you really enjoy the way that you feel while you're exercising? Okay, great. I kind of anticipated that. How many of you exercise because you enjoy the way that you feel after you're done? You can have both answers. Okay, great. And how many of you exercise because you know that you can anticipate feeling good while you're exercising and or when you're done? Brilliant. Okay. Your answers match recent research that's coming out of the University of Michigan by Dr. Michelle Seeger. She's doing research that shows us that individuals make exercise decisions from more of an emotional, intuitive place rather than a logical, rational place. And this parallels marketing research, which tells us that individuals make purchasing decisions largely from an emotional, intuitive place rather than a logical, rational place. We make purchases because we feel good as we're making that purchase, or we're anticipating feeling good when we obtain that product or that service. We exercise because either we feel good while we're doing it, or we feel good when we're done, or we anticipate that we're going to feel good in either of those scenarios. So we can assist our members in obtaining a positive emotional experience, which will keep them coming back for more. One of the ways that we can do that is through our group fitness instructors, our personal trainers, our team trainers. So these are the individuals that have the opportunity and the privilege of taking the more linear, objective, scientific information that goes into creating a sound program and turning it into more intuitive, subjective, emotional, and motivating messages so that our members really latch onto that and want to keep coming back for more. We're empowering and engaging our clients, and we all know that empowered and engaged clients are retained clients, and they're the ones who are spending more money within our club. So Myzone got it right, because they created a very easy to use, very easy to understand system that's a combination of the linear and the objective with the subjective, the intuitive, the creative. And this gives instructors an incredible tool to then take and use with their clients to create an emotional and motivating experience and to really empower the individuals taking their classes. We at Myzone are here to support your instructors as they're developing language around the Myzone system. And this morning, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover a few talking points in brief to give some examples of how instructors and trainers can effectively use the Myzone system when they're coaching and training clients. I'm going to lead from the why, and then I'm going to explain the how, and I'll define the what. And I'll give some specific examples of how instructors or trainers can use the Myzone system and talk at the beginning, the middle, and the end of their class sessions. So first, did I lose my... I teach at a university. You'd think I'd know how to operate one of these, right? Okay. So one of the big why questions that I constantly get is, why do we use heart rate as an indicator of exercise intensity, or as a measure of exercise intensity and caloric expenditure? Well, we know that there's a strong relationship between oxygen consumption and heart rate. We also know that there's a strong relationship between oxygen consumption and caloric expenditure. Oxygen consumption or oxygen uptake is how we measure our aerobic capacity. And our aerobic capacity is an indicator of our cardiorespiratory fitness. So if we know that there's a strong relationship between heart rate and oxygen consumption, then we know that that is giving us a very objective, indirect measure of exercise intensity. And it also allows us to then estimate our caloric expenditure. So it's a very effective way of estimating our exercise intensity, or giving us an indirect measure of exercise intensity. Aerobic capacity is our ability to take in oxygen and get it to our working muscles, and then for those working muscles to extract the oxygen and use it for fuel. So using heart rate does give us a very accurate way of measuring intensity. Another why question that I frequently get, why are we training in the zones that we're training in? So here's a picture of all of the beautiful Myzone zones. The gray, blue, and green zones are our moderate intensity zones. These are excellent base building zones for folks who are newer to exercise. These are also wonderful recovery zones for those who are more intermediate or advanced. And they're great steady state zones because these are intensities that we can hold for an extended period of time, especially the more fit that we become. The blue zone is also our fat burning zone. That's always a big catchphrase, catchword. So in the fat burning zone, we're mobilizing, we're oxidizing fat, and we're using fat as the substrate for our fuel at a higher ratio than carbohydrate. However, your instructors also have an opportunity to do a little bit of myth busting, because if your clients have weight loss or weight management goals, it really comes down to total caloric expenditure. So even though at higher intensities, we're burning carbohydrate at a higher ratio than fat, we're still burning more total kilocalories, and we're still burning fat as a fuel source. So it's actually more effective to work out in the higher intensity zones as well. And before we talk about the hot zones, I'm going to take a little drink of water. So the yellow and red zones are our hot zones, our high intensity zones. These are zones that are wonderful for improving our aerobic capacity that I was talking about before. They're also great zones for elevating our anaerobic threshold, our ability to hold higher intensities for a longer period of time. And these are the zones, the yellow and the red zones, that are going to give us a higher afterburn effect, or EPOC effect, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which means we're burning calories at a higher rate as we recover from that high intensity workout than we were before we started exercising. So you can use that as a coaching point, or I can use that as a coaching point or tip as I'm instructing or training clients. Okay, so let's move into the how. A big how question is, how do I compare the objective measure of heart rate with how I feel, a more subjective piece of feedback? So as an instructor, I can use something like the rate of perceived exertion chart, and I can ask my participants, okay, how do you feel right now on a scale of 1 to 10 of exertion? 1 being minimal, 10 being maximal. I can get an idea of how they're feeling and compare that with what I'm seeing on the board as their heart rate percentage or the zone that they're in, and I can see how that's matching up, and it gives me an opportunity to have some conversations with my client. Another way that we can compare the objective measure of heart rate with how we feel is a feature that's been added to the Myzone app. So for those of you that raised your hand that you have the app, you're probably using this. After you exercise, the little screen pops up and it said, how did you like your move? And you can rank that from a sad face all the way up to a really happy face. And what that's doing is it's allowing clients, participants, Myzone users to have an opportunity to reflect and remember how they felt during that session, how much they enjoyed it, and which types of exercise or intensity are going to keep them coming back for more. So it's an opportunity to engage people. Another piece of the how puzzle, how do I improve my fitness? I really like to offer my clients and my classes a training profile so that they can have an idea of what to expect from that session or that class, and so that they and I can set goals around that particular class or session. So I'll use the blue and the green zones as base building or steady state zones, as I mentioned, for more beginning exercisers, or as a recovery workout, an active recovery workout for my more intermediate or advanced clients. If I've got folks that have built their base of fitness, I'll move into tempo or pace training, where we're using higher intensities, yellows, maybe a little bit of red, for 3 to 5 minutes at a time, then recovering down into the green zone for 2 to 5 minutes at a time. If I've got really advanced folks, I might bring them into threshold training. Threshold training is where we're holding an intensity that's as high as you can manage for 20, 30, maybe even 40 minutes. And this is an intensity that's just under your anaerobic threshold, so that if we bumped it up a little bit more, you'd probably gas out within the next couple of minutes. This is high intensity stuff. We're all familiar with high intensity interval training, HIIT training. It's very popular. What Myzone does is it allows us to give our clients very specific targets of what we want them to hit. And the class creator and the zone match function are awesome for this, because I can say to my clients, I want you to go up and hit the hot zones, the yellow and the red when we do our work phase, our push, and then I want you to touch green in the recovery before you go back up again. It allows me to give people very specific and achievable targets. Moving into the what. So what are my goals for this workout? That's something that I need to know as the instructor, and I also expect that my participants have goals or objectives coming into the workout. And the Myzone system gives us the MEPS point incentive. So clients can be setting goals for their workout, for their week, for their month, for the year. And as an instructor, I can set a collective workout for my group or my class. And I'm going to unpack that here in just a moment. So I'm going to give some very specific sample talking points for the beginning, the middle, and the end of a workout session. And the MEPS are something that I would start with. So at the very beginning of my workout session, I might say something like, all right, everybody, in this 45-minute workout, you can expect to earn around 100 MEPS. And since there's 20 of us in here right now, collectively, I anticipate that we're going to earn at minimum 2,000 MEPS before this thing is over. So it's giving everyone a target, something to aim for, something to achieve. At the beginning of the session, I'm also going to give a training profile. I might say something like, today, we're going to do a high-intensity interval training workout. You're going to touch all of the zones today. We're going to start with a warm-up in blue and green, and then when we get into our work phase, you're popping up into those hot zones. You're going to hit yellow and red. You're going to hold it for 30 seconds. Then we're going to come down, and you're going to try to touch green within a minute before we go back up again. So I'm setting my class up to succeed by giving them those very specific targets. And if I'm using the class creator or the zone match, it's important that I do that so folks can experience success when they're trying to match the specific zones. I need another quick little drink of water before I move into the middle of the session. That's appropriate after the warm-up. Hydrate, right? All right. In the middle of the session, I might talk about rate of perceived exertion. I'll say, how are you doing? I can see all of your heart rates on the board. Give me that scale of 1 to 10, 1 being minimal, 10 being maximal exertion. How do you feel right now? And I'm probably going to have them hold it up on their hands, and then I can gauge where everyone is at. I'm also going to offer some rationale for training in the zones that we're training in. So I might say something like, we're aiming for the hot zones, the yellow and the red on the push, because our goal is to expand our capacity. I want you to push as hard as you can during the interval phase. And then I'll say during the recovery, I want you to recover as much as you possibly can, because we're training the activation of our parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to become more efficient in our exercise. I'll coach the transitions as well, which is incredibly important as we're asking people to match zones. So I'll say something like, all right, I want you to amp up your effort over this next minute because we're going to hit red within 1 minute. And then when we're in the work phase, I might say something like, okay, I want you to start shutting it down because I want you to be in green within the next 45 seconds. And that allows people to adjust their intensity or their work rate as needed to hit the appropriate zones. At the end of the session, I'm going to talk about the value of recovery. I'll probably even do a heart rate recovery assessment with my group. I might have everybody go up into 85% yellow zone and hold for 2 minutes. and then recover for 1 minute passively as much as they can. And then 6 to 8 weeks from that time, I can repeat that same assessment, and we can look at improved efficiency of heart rate recovery. So it'll give them that metric to work with. I'll do a MEPS check-in at the end of the class. How many MEPS did you earn? How many MEPS were you aiming for? How many MEPS are you going to hit this week? What's your status? Because as Dave was mentioning, we've got those statuses that folks enjoy talking about. Currently, I'm diamond status on my way to the Hall of Fame. Don't worry, Dave. I'll also, at the end of the class, do a little calorie burn check-in. How many calories did you expend today? Did you have goals around your caloric expenditure? Why or why not? And then at the very end, I'll remind all of my participants to, of course, rate their workout. So when their app pops up, how did you like this workout? I'll remind them to rate that so that they can remember how much they enjoyed it so that they keep coming back for more. I'll also remind them to name their move in their activity calendar so that they remember what workout they did specifically and that they enjoyed it. And I'll invite all of my participants to add me and add their fellow participants as a social connection via Myzone, because we're creating a community then of support and of accountability. And that's a really neat way to be able to end the class with a very communal feel. And that's a very important thing to keep people coming back for more, as we all know. Okay. Oh, one too far. Wow, okay. Let me see if I can get it for you guys. There we go. So speaking of a community of support, we have put together a variety of resources that are available for your instructors, your trainers, personal trainers, team trainers, you name it. We've got resources available to them. These are all great resources for your members as well. So we've got an e-learning module that's more specific for the instructors and the trainers. That's modules 101 through 301 of heart rate science, specific talking points around the Myzone system, really valuable information for instructors and trainers. Emily just came out with a great video giving specific talking points around the Myzone system. Emily and I are live every Friday from the Myzone Facebook page, and I'll invite you to join us this Friday live. We launch at 8 a.m. Pacific time every Friday. You can catch it on the Myzone Facebook page, and if you miss it there, then you can catch it on the Myzone Moves YouTube channel. That's got a lot of great informational and educational content as well. We've got the Myzone Moves podcast. You saw Todd Durkin just a little bit ago. We had the privilege of interviewing him just a couple of months ago on the podcast. And we just launched 2 episodes that give top 10 talking points around the Myzone system on the podcast. And then we've got blogs available on the Myzone website. And both Emily and I contribute to the Master Trainer blog. That's got a lot of great resources and information as well. So thank you for being a part of the Myzone community, and thanks for your time this morning.